Do I have a mustache?
Just like a little, like a wet one. It's not like a foamy one.
Hey, it's Sue.
And Megan.
The Spine Breakers. We're back in our
original filming spot.
Location.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we filmed our with the first video we filmed in your house. We filmed our second video, which was
I think the BookTube newbie tag or whatever. Yeah,
we filmed
right here.
Yeah. In this spot, which is my house. But anyway.
Throwback.
Lily. This is why we don't film at my house.
Come here.
Because my pets wreck shit.
Mine are just disruptive. Like, they're passively disruptive.
But anyway, today we're doing a May wrap-up.
Reading wrap-up. Yeah, and when we do that, we're going to drink this Gettin Tiki with it, Nitro. It's a Pina Colada Wheat.
From Left Hand Brewing.
Which is I feel like Left Hand's in Colorado, yeah? Or something like that.
I do not remember.
Yep, Longmont. Oh, look.
Yes, there's a plant hanging in Megan's face.
I feel like the nature queen. Wow! You be gentle.
Nitro part, right?
Yeah.
Should we let it sit? I don't know. It's still pretty foamy.
It'll usually, like, within a minute or two, like, this is already kind of scooching back up. So I think yours is just the worst because I started pouring it first.
Yeah. It smells nice.
Oh, it does smell nice, huh?
Let's just do it. I'm impatient.
Deal. Cheers.
I'm gonna have a mustache.
That is interesting.
It's nice. I like it. Definitely coconutty and I kind of taste pineapple. Is there supposed to be pineapple?
I don't know if they're supposed to be, but I'm definitely getting that too.
Yeah, it says with pineapple added.
And once it's settled down, this head is like really creamy and nice.
Yeah.
Typical nitro thing, I guess, but
it is like 7.5%. So I feel like it's one that could sneak up on you.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like you can kind of get a boozy taste, though, from it.
Slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I finished 6 books this month.
Damn, I only finished 2.
So, I'll begin.
You get it.
So the first book that I finished was The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers, which is the 4th and I believe the final book in the Wayfarer series. And this one is set on a planet that's kind of like a hub. It's like a truck stop, kind of, for spaceships. And so we're following 3 different beings who stop at this planet, and something happens where they get stuck there for a little while with each other. And it's kind of, I thought it was probably the one I've read that was most similar to the first one, where it's kind of this group of like diverse
hodgepodge races, kind of like
coming together and, you know, bonding and maybe overcoming some stereotypes they might have thought about, or learning about each other and learning that those stereotypes aren't true. Right. Things like that. So it was just a really nice one, heartwarming, feel good. I loved it.
I'm reading it
5 stars.
currently. 5 stars?
I gave it 5 stars.
Damn. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I just started that, so I'm not very far into it, but I am reading it currently.
Yeah. So if you like, you know, some feel-good books and sci-fi that's very character-driven and not super plot-driven, definitely check out Becky Chambers if you haven't yet.
Definitely.
The next book I finished was called Teach Me by Olivia Dade, and this is a romance novel about 2 history teachers. One of them is named Rose, and she's like very guarded, and she also is a little upset that this new teacher got hired and took some of her classes. And then the other teacher, Martin, he's recently or somewhat recently divorced, and you know, so they both have their shit that they're going through, and then, you know, romance ensues.
Love ensues.
But I liked it. I thought it was a cute one. I picked it up because I wanted to read some more Olivia Dade, because I read the book, spoiler alert, last year, and I really loved it. And I didn't like this one as much, but I still enjoyed it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I also would like to make it clear that despite what the cover might look like, the male love interest is a 40-something-year-old teacher, not a 17-year-old student. So I don't know know why they made both of them, but especially him, look so young on the cover. They're both in their 40s, I'm pretty sure.
They are both of legal age. They are both consenting adults.
Yes. But I thought it was cute, but I wouldn't say it was like anything special. I did like that. I think Olivia Dade, or at least all that I know of her books, feature plus size women. So I appreciate that, you know,
Yeah.
as a plus size woman.
Hell yeah. So the first book that I finished in the month of May, I had to delay that because I forgot what last month was. So I was like, stall, it was May. It was an audio book, and it was The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I had read Head Full of Ghosts previously by Paul Tremblay and really liked it. So I figured I would read some more by him. And this novel was about a couple and their daughter who go to this like remote cabin for vacation, and some strangers show up and say basically, this isn't a spoiler, but they say basically that the world is going to end. So unless the couple makes a sacrifice, the world will end. So what they have to kill somebody, and the sacrifice, whoever gets sacrificed has to be willing. So they can't just like out and out murder someone.
Right.
So like, obviously the couple is like, what the fuck? Absolutely not. You guys are bananas. And so it becomes like a hostage situation because this group of people is trying to convince the couple and their daughter that this is real, this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, like, they don't have any proof, and that sounds absolutely batshit bananas crazy. So, yeah. It was heartbreaking, which I feel like of the two Paul Tremblay books that I've read, I feel like that's maybe normal for him. But yeah, the ending, my complaint with it really was that the ending was very not satisfying to me. And I think the point really is more about the journey than it is the ending in this book, but I like to have a satisfying ending, and so there wasn't one. So if that's something that you like as well, maybe don't read this book because very not satisfying. Also, I listened to it on audiobook, and the narrator, I felt like didn't do a great job with like inflection and stuff in their voice, and so some of the stuff was read very monotone, and that made it hard to get into it. But really good book. The couple in the book, there are a couple of gay men who adopted their daughter, and I feel like it was nice to see that just presented as just like a normal thing. Yeah. So that was kind of nice, but
premise sounds really cool.
Yeah, it was a good book. Like I would recommend it, but only if you're cool with a kind of ambivalent ending. Okay. But it was really good. There is some graphic violence in there. It's not sexual violence. There's never any sexual violence in it, but there is some graphic violence in it. So just FYI. But I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I forgot to say that.
Okay, the next book I finished was Here for It, or How to Save Your Soul in America, I think is the subtitle. Yes. Essays by R. Eric Thomas. This was a collection of essays. He's a writer for Elle, I believe.
Okay.
I had not heard of him before, but this was a book club pick last month that I didn't finish before book club. Yeah, it's just his essays about his life. He grew up in kind of a evangelical Christian church and went to private school, and then grew up to be a gay man, also a black man. I mean, he was always black. He didn't grow up to be a black man. But yeah, so he talks some about struggles he went through regarding that, but I don't know. It was kind of strange to me because he didn't really talk about having to like reconcile his faith with, the fact that he was gay or anything like that, which maybe he didn't. Maybe he just always was like, the people are wrong and not the religion.
Right.
Because he does tell about, how when he was a child, he remembers a man being like voted out of their church.
Oh,
like
damn.
Kicked out of the church because they found out he was gay. Yeah, he never really talks about any kind of
like faith reconciliation where he decides.
I was surprised by. I was kind of expecting that, but yeah, on the whole, I thought it was okay. I wasn't.
Oh, really?
I wasn't that into it. I thought like he's a good writer and he's funny, but I felt like the humor was almost a little outdated too. Like it kind of seemed like something that would be you know, a blog post from like 5 to 10 years ago.
Nice. Okay.
So I wasn't that into it, but I thought it was not bad.
Okay.
3 stars.
Okay. Not too shabby. I think I have that book on my Kindle.
Really?
So I was interested to hear what your thoughts were about it because I haven't read it yet. So
yeah. And then the next book I read was Well Met by Jen DeLuca. And this is another romance novel. It's about this young woman who moves in with her sister for a while because her sister was in a bad car accident and needs help getting around, and also needs someone to help her out with her teenage daughter, Lily.
Come here. Come here.
Her sister's daughter, her niece, wants to participate in this thing that one of the, I think it's the English teacher, puts on every year, which is a Renaissance fair, essentially, but it like benefits something. I don't remember.
It's beneficial. Sure. Benefits something.
I think maybe it raises money for the school or something like that. But in order to do that, she has to have a parent or guardian also participate. I can't remember her name, which is why I haven't said it. Emily participates in it with her, and immediately she and Simon, the English teacher who's putting this on, butt heads, and so of course they fall in love.
Right, that's what happens.
But I thought this was cute, and I enjoyed it. I like Renaissance fairs, so that was fun. And my only complaint with it was that I kind of wish, it's all from Emily's perspective, and I kind of wish that we also got Simon's perspective.
Makes sense.
Because I didn't feel that like invested in their relationship, and I think it's because I didn't like really feel much toward him.
Right, because you didn't get his perspective or anything.
Yeah.
On the relationship.
What did I give it? I think I also gave this one 3.5 stars because, yeah, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a favorite romance that I've ever read.
So the second and last book that I read in May was Men Who Hate Women, From Incels to Pickup Artists, The Truth About Extreme Misogyny and How It Affects Us All by Laura Bates. And I mean, that kind of tells you what it's about. But Laura Bates talks about various different like extreme misogynist groups. Things like incels or like involuntary celibates, men's rights activists, etc. But then she also talks about how some of those like very extreme misogynistic ideas get kind of packaged and presented in such a way that they get mainstream buy-in, and you have people in power who are making decisions and writing laws and policy who buy into some or all of these extreme misogynist ideas. So she does talk about the extremist communities, but she does kind of take it into the mainstream and say like, here's how they cross over, here's how they indoctrinate young men, here's how they make their message more palatable. And it's kind of terrifying. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like this book was really hard to get through, and I think it's part of the reason why I only read 2 books in May, because it was scary and it was infuriating, and all of it's true, and it's, I think, a very worthy read, and it's very valid. And I also really appreciated how Laura Bates talks about in the end of the book, like, what's the solution? Like, how do we fix this? Because obviously, like, she's talking about how sometimes when we talk about toxic masculinity, men hear masculinity is toxic. They don't separate the two. Yeah. And so she's talking about ways to reach. She basically says like some men are unreachable, like the ones who are like deep in it, unreachable. Right. But yeah, she talks about how some men end up finding a place in those groups because they are lonely or hurt or depressed or whatever. And she said like for those men, there's probably more hope of working with them to get them back. But then like preventatively, she talks about, you know, we really have to have conversations, be more willing to have conversations about gender norms and gender roles and what masculinity is and what toxic masculinity is, and talking about those things with boys and men, basically, you know. And I think she started the Everyday Sexism Organization or Everyday Sexism Coalition. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it was a really good book. Like I said, it was hard to get through to just like put it down at times, but I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars just because I did feel like some of it was a little bit repetitive. Like in some of the chapters, I was like, come on, like I know. That's really the only thing that I had an issue with. So yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Not a fun read, but a good read.
The next book that I finished, I listened to on audio, and it was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinner. And it was read by 3 different people. It doesn't list them all here, but this is about a woman named Caroline in present time who she's visiting London by herself. It was supposed to be her 10-year anniversary trip with her husband, but shortly before the trip, she found out her husband was having an affair.
Oh.
And so she goes to London by herself, and she studied history, I think, in college, and wanted to go on to get like her master's or PhD or something, but like her husband talked her out of it and blah blah. Basically, she's just very unhappy in her life. And while she's there, she finds this little apothecary bottle in the river, and so she's trying to figure out where this bottle came from. And then simultaneously, we're getting the story of the apothecary, where this bottle came from in the 1700s, who she ran an apothecary, but she sold poisons basically to women who wanted to off the terrible men in their lives. So we're hearing her story, as well as like this 12-year-old girl, Eliza, I think was her name, also in the 1700s, who kind of becomes intertwined in this, and some shit goes awry. I did not like this. It was pretty bad. And it got better as it went, like it got more compelling at least, but the beginning was like almost unbearable. If it hadn't been my book club book for this month, I definitely would have DNF'd it. And now, after having finished it, I would not have regretted that decision, because it wasn't like good enough for me to care.
Fair.
But part of the problem was, I think, that the audio narration, whoever read the part of Nellie, the apothecary, read her like a cartoon witch.
Oh.
Like, it was cringy.
Oh.
And so that didn't help things. I don't think I would have liked it even if I had read the physical version either. But that narration definitely made it worse. The other 2 narrators did fine. But yeah, it was almost unbearably cringy to listen to at the beginning. And then it's just like a very contrived story. It's predictable, kind of cheesy at times. And there's also, like, one of my pet peeves in stories is when someone either is supposed to really love something and have a lot of knowledge about it, or is supposed to be an expert in something, like Caroline, the person who's supposedly a historian or wants to be a historian. Like, she breaks into a historical site and like fucks shit up. I'm like, what are you doing?
Stop it.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of my pet peeves, is when someone's like supposedly an expert in something and then totally fucks up the handling of it. Like,
right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just all was kind of like, meh. The story, like I said, got kind of like more compelling at the end, at least. But overall, I don't think it was very good, and I really don't understand what all the hype is about.
Fair. Yeah, I think I had seen that book. I had come across it somewhere, and I was like, oh, it sounds kind of cool. But then after you listened to it, I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Do not want.
I definitely, if you're still interested in reading it, I probably would recommend reading the physical version and not listening to the audiobook, because, like, I almost couldn't handle
That's rough.
that. Whichever one of the people, I don't even know who read which part, but whichever one of them read Nellie, I can't remember what her name was just bad. I also had a lot of questions about how she ran her apothecary, because I feel like she did some really stupid things. Like,
you're like, this is just a bad business
of course
model.
You're going to get caught.
Yikes.
But yeah, was not a fan. And then the last book I finished this month was the one that I have a copy of, which is Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. And this is a collection of short stories. They're all sci-fi stories. Some of them I think are a little bit more fantasy than sci-fi, but it's kind of interesting, because the ones that are a little bit more fantasy are fantasy, obviously. But then the sci-fi is like pretty technical sci-fi, I would say.
Right,
like
so they're
a lot
kind
of
of
math
different.
and science, yeah. Which I would say most of them are more like that. But yeah, the most famous story is Story of Your Life, which the movie Arrival which stars Amy Adams, is based on. I haven't watched that movie. I need to because I've heard it's really good. But that story was definitely my favorite in this collection. It's a fantastic story. But overall, I thought it was a really solid collection. I enjoyed all the stories, and I gave it 4 stars.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Damn, you killed it this month.
Yeah, and I think
I
think he does a really good job of kind of like mixing, because like I think Story of Your Life is a great example of that too, of like mixing the like technical sci-fi with like the heartwarming or emotional character development and stuff.
So it's not so cold and just like numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
The only like, and this isn't even really a good example, but the only like technical sci-fi that I've really read has been some Michael Crichton, I think. But he does that thing where he just like info dump stuff, and I'm like,
I'm also not sure how sound his science is.
probably not great.
Yeah, I don't know how sound Ted Chiang's science is either, but he did at least reference like real
scientists,
existing like formulas and theories, etc.
Real life things. Yeah. But yeah, I guess I read Contact by Carl Sagan. That would probably be a little technical-ish.
Probably.
And you know his science is sound.
That was all I read. I had an okay month. I read a lot at the beginning, and then I really fell off there at the end.
I just like struggled this month. Like, I think, like I said, I think part of it was that Men Who Hate Women book, because it was just, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Like, you know that people believe those things, but then like to
seeing
actually,
how people like deliberately
package and market those things to make them more mainstream and to make them more palatable is horrifying, because like you can see that, like we can see that in our current situation. So yeah, it was just, it was a ride. It was a ride. And y'all know how I feel about men anyway, so it didn't really help. But but yeah, so, and I just have a lot like going on right now anyway.
Really busy.
Yeah.
I need to read some romance novels. That's what I do when I don't want to brain too hard.
I know. I need to like, need to find what my that is.
Yeah.
Like what my...
I thought it was zombie novels. Have you exhausted your list of zombie novels?
I don't own any that I haven't read, but I could find some.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think cheesy horror is probably my romance.
Horror erotica.
Horror erotica. That's what I should be reading. Some fucking horror erotica.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was our wrap up. Let us know what you thought of any of the books we read. If you have any thoughts.
Let us know if you read any books you really loved or really hated in May.
How did you feel if you've read The Lost Apothecary? Did you also think it was terrible? Or did you love it?
What were your thoughts?
Yeah. How'd you think about how Nella ran her apothecary?
Was it shady?
Did you think she was just waiting to be caught?
You bitch, get it together.
Yeah.
So let's revisit the beer.
I think it's all right. I think I like it less as I drink it, kind of. Like it starts to taste more bland.
I didn't love it the first drink of it. It's grown on me a little bit, but yeah, I don't know like that this is something I would buy.
Yeah. It's not bad, definitely.
No.
And it does have like kind of a nice, pina colada flavor.
It does.
But it's very subtle, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it is subtle, and then it does taste a little boozy, which, it's only a
slightly.
7% ABV, but it does
7.5, I think.
Yeah, 7.5.
But yeah, it's not bad. Get
all right.
Tiki with it. Nitro. Yeah, so that's it for us.
Yes, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Who knows where we'll be?
Who knows?
Where in the world
is Spine Breakers?
It's like, I don't know where I'm going with this. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.